I'm not sure where to begin, but I've got to get this off my chest. It's been gnawing at me for months, like a splinter I can't pull out. And every time I think I've pushed it down, it finds a way to surface again. My name's Jake Thompson, just an ordinary guy from Chicago, working a desk job at a tech startup in 2025. I'm not the kind of person who goes looking for trouble. Never have been. I'm the guy who pays his bills on time, keeps his head down, and maybe grabs a beer with friends on the weekend. But last spring, trouble found me, and it came in the form of a woman named Sarah Bennett. She was my coworker, brilliant, with a smile that could light up a room, or as I'd learn, hide a secret that could ruin everything. When she closed that curtain in the conference room and whispered, "This stays between us. Understand?" I had no clue how deep I was about to fall into something I couldn't control. It was April 2025 and our company Nexus Labs was on top of the world. We were building an AI-driven app that promised to change how people manage their money. Think budgeting meets predictive analytics, the kind of thing that gets investors drooling. I was a mid-level data analyst, spending my days crunching numbers, building models, and making sure the app's algorithms didn't choke on bad data. It wasn't glamorous, but I liked it. Sarah, though, she was on the marketing team and she was a force. She'd walk into meetings with ideas that made everyone else's seem like they were scribbled on a napkin. She had this confidence, polished, never cocky, that made you want to listen. We weren't friends, not really, but we'd talk sometimes by the coffee machine, swapping complaints about Chicago's brutal winters or laughing about whatever was trending on X that week. Just normal coworker stuff. Nothing out of the ordinary. That all changed on April 12th. It was a Friday and the office was electric. We just landed a massive investor, the kind of deal that could take Nexus Labs from a scrappy startup to a household name. Everyone was planning to head to a bar downtown to celebrate, tossing around names of craft breweries and cocktail spots. I stayed behind though to finish a report that was due Monday. I'm not a workaholic, but I didn't want to start my weekend with that hanging over my head. Sarah was still there, too, working on a presentation for the investor meeting the following week. By 8 p.m., the office was a ghost town, just the hum of the AC and the occasional ping of my computer. I was packing up my laptop when Sarah appeared at my cubicle. "Hey, Jake," she said, her voice casual, but with this undercurrent I couldn't quite read. "Got a minute?" I shrugged, figuring she needed help with a chart or some data for her slides. "Sure, what's up?" She glanced around, her eyes scanning the empty cubicles like she was making sure we were alone. Then she nodded toward the conference room down the hall. "Let's talk in there." I didn't think much of it at first. I grabbed my coffee mug and followed her, expecting a quick question about numbers. But when we got to the conference room, she closed the door behind us, pulled the curtain over the glass wall, and turned to face me. Her expression was different, intense, like she was trying to read my soul. "This stays between us. Understand?" she said, her voice so low it was almost a whisper. I froze, my hands still on the back of a chair. What's this about, Sarah?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she pulled her phone from her pocket, tapped the screen a few times, and slid it across the table toward me. I looked down and saw a spreadsheet, but it wasn't one of ours. Not from the shared drives or project folders I worked with every day. It had columns of names, dates, and dollar amounts, some in the tens of thousands. And there, halfway down the list, was my name, Jake Thompson, next to a figure, $150, dated 2 weeks earlier. "What the hell is this?" I asked, my voice louder than I meant it to be. My stomach twisted like I'd just been punched. "Keep your voice down," she said, glancing at the door like someone might burst in. "I found this on a secure server I wasn't supposed to access. It's a record of payments, Jake. Off-the-books payments, and your name's on it." I laughed, but it came out shaky, more like a cough. "This is a mistake. I haven't taken a dime from anyone. You know that." She leaned closer, her eyes locked on mine, unblinking. "I believe you, but someone's setting you up. And if this gets out, it's not just your job on the line. It's your life." The feds don't mess around with financial fraud, especially not with a startup like ours under scrutiny. My mind was spinning. I'm not a criminal. I pay my taxes on time. I don't cheat on my expense reports. I don't even cross the street against the light. But that spreadsheet looked real and my name was right there tied to a payment I'd never seen. Who's doing this? I asked, my voice barely steady. And why me? Sarah hesitated, her fingers tapping nervously on the table. I don't know yet, but I've been digging and it's bigger than you. There's money moving through Nexus Labs that shouldn't be. Offshore accounts, shell companies, the kind of stuff that gets people locked up or worse. I need your help to figure out who's behind it. I should have walked away right then and there, told her to take it to HR, the police, or someone with actual authority, but there was something in her voice, fear maybe, or desperation that hooked me. She wasn't asking for help. She was pleading for it. And the fact that my name was on that list made it personal. What do you need me to do? I asked, my mouth dry. She smiled, but it wasn't her usual bright, disarming grin. It was tight, almost grim, like she knew we were stepping into something dangerous. We're going to find the source. But you can't tell anyone, Jake. Not your boss, not your friends, not even your girlfriend. If this leaks, we're both done. I didn't have a girlfriend, but I got what she meant. This was a secret that could ruin us. Okay, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm in. That was my first mistake, and it wouldn't be my last. Over the next few weeks, Sarah and I became the secret team working in the shadows of our own workplace. She'd slip me USB drives with encrypted files, and I'd take them home, analyzing them late at night with my apartment blinds drawn tight. I felt like some paranoid hacker in a movie, double-checking my locks and muting my phone. The data was a mess. Transactions funneled through fake vendor accounts, invoices for services that never happened, and names of people I'd never heard of. Some with titles like consultant or advisor, but no trace in our employee records. But there were patterns if you looked hard enough. Money was being siphoned from Nexus Labs accounts to a company called Horizon Ventures registered in the Cayman Islands. And Horizon wasn't just a shell. It was linked to someone high up in our company, though we didn't know who yet. I started noticing things at work that I'd never paid attention to before. Our CEO, Mark Reynolds, was acting off. He'd always been intense, the kind of guy who could charm a room or intimidate it depending on his mood. But now he was snappier, taking private calls behind closed doors and leaving meetings abruptly. One day, I saw him walk out of his office with a guy I didn't recognize, a tall man in a sharp suit who didn't fit our startup's jeans and hoodie vibe. They didn't shake hands or smile. They just exchanged a quick nod and left in separate directions. Sarah saw it too. And later in the break room, she whispered, "That's not an investor. I think he's a fixer." "A fixer?" I asked, feeling like I was drowning in a world I didn't understand. "Someone who cleans up messes," she said, her voice barely audible, "or makes them disappear." I didn't want to believe her, but the pieces were starting to fit. Mark had been pushing hard for the investor deal, hyping it up like it was our golden ticket. But now I wondered if the money wasn't just for growth, it was covering something else, something illegal. The thought made my skin crawl, but I couldn't stop now. Sarah and I were in too deep. By early May, we had enough to confront someone, or at least to start asking questions. But Sarah was adamant. We needed hard proof. We can't go to the authorities with half a story. She told me one evening in a diner miles from the office. "They'll bury us, Jake. Companies like Nexus Labs have lawyers who eat whistleblowers for breakfast." So we kept digging. Sarah showed me how to hack into an admin account. Not something I'm proud of, but she knew her way around systems I'd never touched. Using that access, I found a chain of emails between Mark and someone referred to only as V. No last name, just a single initial. The emails were short, vague, but damning. "Move the funds by M. Horizon is secure. Keep the team in the dark." Each one felt like a punch to the gut. I was terrified, but Sarah was relentless. She'd meet me in random places, parking lots, coffee shops on the outskirts of town, always checking over her shoulder, always with a new plan. "You're doing the right thing," she'd say when I started to waver, when the weight of what we were doing made me want to quit, but I wasn't so sure. My name was still on that spreadsheet. And if this went wrong, I'd be the one taking the fall, not her. Then on June 3rd, everything shifted. I got a text from Sarah at 2 a.m. "Meet me at the office now. Bring your laptop." My heart was pounding as I read it. I didn't want to go, but I couldn't say no. Not after everything we'd uncovered. I threw on a hoodie, grabbed my laptop, and drove to the office. The streets of Chicago eerily quiet in the early morning hours. When I got there, the building was dark. The security guard nowhere in sight. Sarah was waiting in the lobby, her face pale, her eyes darting like she expected someone to jump out of the shadows. "We've got a problem," she said, pulling me into the conference room. "The same one where this all started." She opened her laptop and showed me a new file, a video clip. Grainy, but clear enough to make my blood run cold. It was security footage from the office showing me at my desk downloading files from the server I'd hacked. The timestamp was from 2 weeks earlier when I'd accessed the admin account. My heart stopped. "Someone's watching us," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "And they know what we're doing." "Who's they?" I asked, my voice shaking so bad I barely recognized it. "I don't know," she admitted, running a hand through her hair. "But this footage was sent to my personal email with a warning. Stop digging or this goes public." I felt like I was going to throw up. "What do we do?" She looked at me, her eyes hard like she was steeling herself for a fight. "We don't stop. We go deeper." I wanted to run to pretend none of this had ever happened. To go back to my boring life of spreadsheets and coffee runs. But Sarah had this hold over me. Not just because of the evidence, but because she was the only one who believed I wasn't involved in whatever scam was happening. She was my lifeline and I couldn't let go. So I stayed. The next week was a blur of paranoia. Sarah bought burner phones from a gas station and we started using them to communicate, avoiding our regular phones like they were bugged. She taught me how to cover our tracks, clearing browser histories, using VPN, wiping metadata from files. I felt like a criminal, but I told myself it was for the right reasons. By mid-June, we had a breakthrough. A bank statement from Horizon Ventures showing a $2 million transfer to an account linked to Mark's brother-in-law, Tom Carter. Tom didn't even work at Nexus Labs. He was some real estate guy who lived in the suburbs. It was the first solid link we had to Mark. "That's it," Sarah said, her voice triumphant as we sat in a dive bar, hunched over her laptop. "This ties Mark to the money. We've got him." But I wasn't so sure. What if he's not the only one? What if V is someone else? Someone higher up? She frowned, her excitement fading. "Then we keep going until we know everything." The next day, I noticed something wrong with my laptop. It was running slower, lagging in ways it never had before. I mentioned it to Sarah and her face went pale. "They're onto us," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "They're monitoring you. We need to move fast." That night, we made a plan to upload all our evidence to a secure cloud server, one Sarah swore was untraceable. We were supposed to meet at the office after hours, but when I got there, she wasn't there. I waited for an hour, texting her burner phone, but got no response. My gut was screaming at me to leave, but I checked her desk on a whim. It was empty. Her laptop, her notes, even her coffee mug gone. It was like she'd never existed. I went home in a panic. My mind racing. Had she been caught? Had she set me up? I didn't know what to think. I checked the cloud server. Nothing. All our files, the emails, the bank statements, the video footage gone. The next morning, I got to work early, hoping to find her. But Mark called me into his office before I could even sit down. "Jake," he said, his tone friendly, but with a coldness that made my skin prickle. "You've been working late a lot. Everything okay?" I nodded, my mouth so dry I could barely speak. "Just finishing reports. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Good. Keep it that way. I left his office shaking, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Sarah didn't show up that day or the next or the day after that. By the end of the week, HR sent out an email saying she'd resigned for personal reasons. No one questioned it. No one seemed to care, but I knew better. Sarah wouldn't just walk away. Not after everything we'd been through. I tried calling her, but her number was disconnected. I checked X, her social media, anything I could think of. Nothing. It was like she'd been erased. Then on June 20th, I got an email from an anonymous address. Just one line. Stop looking, Jake. You're in too deep. I haven't heard from Sarah since. I still work at Nexus Labs, but I keep my head down, sticking to my reports and avoiding Mark's office. The investor deal went through and the company's bigger than ever with Mark acting like nothing happened. But I know what I saw, what we found. I checked my email every day, hoping for a sign from her, some proof she's okay, but there's nothing. I don't know if she's safe, if she betrayed me, or if she's running for her life. I'm telling you this because I can't keep it inside anymore. I don't know who's listening, who's watching, but I need someone to know what happened. Sarah closed that curtain and pulled me into a world I can't escape. Every day I wonder if I made a mistake trusting her, if I'm next on someone's list. I go to work, I smile, I nod, but inside I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I don't know if I'll ever get out of this or if I'm already too far gone.